action.
It's so weird that I'm this close to it.
Yeah, trust me, it'll look good. You're like, wow, whoa, this is great.
Is that what's gonna happen? All right. What's going on, guys? This is Nick from Budget Bill Garage, and today I am back on our Chevy big block. Honestly, this has taken me a lot longer than I wanted to, and not because I don't have parts piling up, because honestly, I've been on Craigslist, I've been at like my local parts store, and I've ordered a couple of things, and honestly, we have everything we need right now to put this thing together and put it in the El Camino. But Taylor and I's schedules, they haven't really been lining up lately, so today we're going to knock out a couple of things, and then next week we'll actually just pull that motor out and get ready to drop this one in. So for today though, I'm going to put the water pump on it, I'm going to put a fuel pump on it. I'm going to show you a problem we ran into with the lifters, which was a bit unfortunate, but I will show you that. And yeah, we can pretty much do everything except the intake, because I don't have intake bolts. I'm going to rob them off of the small block once we get that out. So let's go ahead and start with the fuel pump. All right. So, this is our fuel pump. When you go to order something like this, you don't necessarily have to jump on Jegs or Summit Racing and get some high-powered pump depending on what you're building. This overall is stock at the moment. You can go to your local parts store and kind of look through their catalog and see what's cheapest. This is actually off of a 69 K20. It's for a big block, and honestly this thing was like 28 bucks. It was super cheap. It will pump all the gallons I needed it to pump. Again, I didn't have to pay 100 bucks for it. I recommend doing stuff like that a lot. You don't need to always be spending a lot of money. You don't need to try and hit 100 bucks to get free shipping. You can just get something like this from your local parts store. As far as popping this bad boy on, honestly, it's like 2 bolts. They're torqued to like 25 foot-pounds. It's super easy. It's up to you whether or not you want to use like a silicone or anything. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to put the thing on, throw 2 bolts through it. But I do want to show you the actual, I forget what they're called, like the drive, the bar that goes through. I'll show you how to do that really quick too. Alright, so this is where our fuel pump goes. Fuel pump boss. I never had it, well, I didn't have it, but they didn't have a fuel pump on this actually. They had a block off plate which was held on with 2 bolts. That's no big deal. So I pulled that off. One thing I need to do though is remove this, which was actually already kind of loose. Kind of made me think it was leaking oil a bit, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, so that's just a plug, and the reason I need to remove that is so I can slide in the push rod for our fuel pump. When you do this, I like to use either some engine oil if I got it lying around, some grease, or this is actually Molly lube or assembly lube, engine building lube. I'm sure you've heard it called a lot of things. I like to put a decent amount of this on it. It's not going to mess with anything, but it helps to hold it in place as well. But it's as easy as sliding it through that hole, pushing it up in there. Once it's in there, you can take your fuel pump, and you want this lever here. Make sure it actually rides on that. So push it far enough in. Make sure you get up under it like that. You should be able to feel it right there. And once you do, you can put your bolts in. Oh man, if you were really smart, which apparently I am not, you would have put this thing back on. Alright, so I'm putting the non-hardening sealer on here. You can use Teflon tape if you want. It's not going to hurt. But I'm going to need to pull this thing back off. Yeah. Yeah, don't do what I just did. Take 2. Alright, so we're going to torque this to 25 foot-pounds. Kind of evenly though. I don't want to just, there we go. Alright, that's done. Let's move on to the water pump. We just moving over here.
Recording.
Cool. I like being recorded.
I bet.
Makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm not just floating through life, hoping my wife doesn't divorce me.
Fuck.
My kids like me.
Wait a minute. This is a fake story.
This is the fake story. Alright, so I'm going to add a dab of silicone just to hold my gaskets in place. It would be awesome if that wasn't the wrong stuff. Although it'll still hold my stuff in place, so that's all that matters. I don't really like these gaskets. I don't have anything against them personally. Just kind of junk. You know, it's kind of weird with like no music in the shop. That's one thing about recording over the last year that I realized. No like heavy metal or anything in the background.
It's lonely.
It's kind of lonely, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna torque this guy to like 30.
Doubt it.
I don't know. I think the actual torque spec's like 35. But hey, I'm a rebel. Alright, water pump's good. Let's move on to my lifter problem. You ready?
Okay.
I'm ready. Alright, so I hate when I start with so.
Just cut that out.
I know. These are the lifters, the push rods, the rocker arms, and everything off the big block. What I've done here is I've made a mark in dry erase pen on this thing because it comes right off. But I put the number 1 cylinder, the exhaust, and like the intake. And then number 2, intake exhaust. Number 3, intake exhaust. And I've laid it all out so everything goes back right where it is. Normally, I'd take all this stuff off when I get an engine like this. I'd pull the lifters apart, clean them all out, clean the push rods, clean everything, and put it back together. But while I was loosening everything up, I noticed not all the push rods were coming up out of the lifters, like there was still tension on them. Turns out, a lot of them, I'll try and show you what a good one looks like. So you can see right here, you have your retaining clip, and then the push rod seat, and they're pretty much touching each other, right? So that's what a good one looks like. This is what a bad one looks like. You can see the push rod seat and everything are sunken way below that. So what happens, and it happens on pretty much any engine it can. When you pull the intake manifold off of those engines, it dumps a bunch of fluid into it. Dumps a lot of coolant, water, whatever. If you don't clean all that stuff out and you're not going to run the engine, you're just going to let it sit like this one did. It pulls in there and it rusts, and then that thing's no good. That won't come back up. That one is junk, and unfortunately a few of those are junk. So what I've done is I have ordered a new set. They're in this awesome thing I stole from the kitchen. These have been soaking in oil for they've been soaking in oil for a long time, but you only need to do it for about 24 hours. I'm going to wipe these things off, add a little assembly lube to them, and shove them all back in, and then I'll put this stuff back together, minus the lifters. Cool, let's do that. This right here is what most people refer to as moly lube or moly grease or anything like that. What this stuff is, basically, it's got a ton of graphite or zinc in it, and it helps to create a barrier between like the metal. Anytime you're going to break in a cam or anytime you're going to break in some lifters like we're going to have to do, you want to like slather a bunch of the stuff on it. You really can't use too much. All I've done is I've shaken off the excess oil from the lifters, and then I'm going to coat this, especially on the bottom and the sides of it. Like I said, you really don't have to worry about using too much. I mean, don't go crazy with it, but And this is actually why I put the oil pan on first. So this all didn't just fall out the bottom. All that oil and nasty wonderfulness. What do you think the odds of this thing blowing up are?
1 in 10.
Really?
Pretty good odds.
You think 1 in 10, really?
No.
I was thinking like 50-50.
I wasn't thinking that at all.
I was legit thinking 50-50. It sat for so long. The lifters, I don't know. You know what I did do
In
off
that case,
camera?
I'm sticking with 1 in 10.
What I did do off camera, which I should have shown, is I did, I used what's called the borescope, which is basically a camera. Put it in there so I can see the pistons. I didn't see any cracks, but then mine's not all that good. Because the good ones are expensive. And, you know, whatever. It looked okay. Top of the pistons looked a little dirty, but I could actually see there was still a cross-hatching in the cylinders, which is a good sign. And I didn't see like a ton of rust or anything. I didn't see any rust, but it's hard to tell. So. I want it to live so bad.
We all do.
I know, I just want to drive my El Camino. My Mustang's running so good. It bothers me. I mean, I love the Mustang too, but you know. I feel like we finished much faster. 2, 3. Alright, so I'm pretty much going to do that, you know, to 6 more cylinders. All the oil I was soaking that stuff in, I'm just going to pour it on top. It'll help clean out all the dust. And, yeah, so the only thing we're missing now really is the intake manifold bolts. I have all the pulleys. I got those, which is good. The other thing I wanted to do on the next video is I want to show you how to take an old distributor and pull it apart and turn it into an oil primer. That's pretty cool. So we'll do that. That's really it for this episode. Like I said, the big block's coming together. We're going to pull the El Camino in here. We're going to get that small block out, and we're going to put this thing in there. And hopefully it stays together when we fire it up. We'll catch you on the next episode. If you like this one, like, comment, subscribe. If you have questions on the big block or anything I did, let me know. And if you have questions or something that I haven't shown you on the big block, if I can do it, I will show you. So yeah, let me know.